you and I have talked about doing on the show is like helping. Lefties don't get money. They do not get money.
No.
And they need to understand that. And there's plenty of fair criticisms of the right as well, but we're hoping that this show.
Yeah. Absolutely. I'm not, nut job, right wing, but when it comes to fiscal matters, I think there's some discussions that need to be had, and I was talking to a friend of ours about this on chat, another podcaster, who, you know who you are. And see, the thing about it is for 40 years, you've had a bull market in the bond market, right? Starting in 1982, when interest rates, the 10-year interest rate and mortgage rates and all these interest rates were 16, 17, 18%, because under the first years of Reagan, when Paul Volcker was the Fed chairman, they had to wipe inflation now or win. And Paul Volcker, the Fed chairman before Greenspan, raised rates aggressively to choke inflation to death. Okay. Now, that essentially worked. And from those highs achieved in 1981, I believe was the absolute high in interest rates.
Yeah.
They've gone down all the way up until 2022. So you're talking about a 40-year period in which the cost of money, interest rates, keeps getting cheaper. And this has meant that for 40 years, politicians in Washington have been able to not have to solve problems, just rewrap them in a bond and recapitalize and just throw it into the market with a longer maturity date and a lower coupon rate and kick the can down the road. Because there was never any moment when, although one interesting exception was under Clinton's administration. Remember when he came on board, became president in the early 90s, Hillary Clinton was really big on healthcare, and she wanted to bring in a totally revamped healthcare. And of course, Wall Street didn't like the sound of that. It was going to cut into the healthcare industry profits. So they staged a bond market collapse in 93. Bonds got hit hard in 93. And that was all managed on Wall Street to scare and to stop Hillary. It was to stop Hillary bond sell-off. And Bill Clinton famously said when he dies, he wants to come back as the bond market, because it's the most powerful thing in the world, right? And then, so they won that battle. If you remember the 2008 financial crisis, they went in front of Congress to seek out $1 trillion relief package. And Congress initially said, well, you have to give us more than just a one-pager. You have to tell us a little bit more about what you're going to do with this $800-900 trillion. And then so they went back in the Goldman Sachs, and those guys went back into the offices, and they had a stock market crash. You can set the dials and create markets go any way you want to. That's a topic for another show. Wow. But you can just make it crash very easily. And they crashed it, and then the Congress the next day caved in. They said, okay, here's your money. I mean, that's one thing about the market. Anyway, so to get back to the bond market. So for 40 years, the main point being that kind of the lefties got addicted to this idea that you could always just print more money, because for 40 years, the global market kept buying American bonds.
Right.
Now in 2022, it changed, and the global market changed principally because of the Ukraine-Russia war. And it began a period now, what you would call a protracted secular bear market in bonds, which means interest rates are going to go up now on a multi-year basis. And so every single year, rates will go higher. Inflation will keep going higher every single year. And like in the 1970s. And people will say, it can't go any higher, can it? Can't go any higher, can it? And it'll just go higher and higher and higher. And this is how the American economy collapses. It'll collapse because it's an inflationary collapse. Because prices will continue to go up, insurance continues to go up, medical costs continue to go up. And it basically, you see those videos, I think we talked about it last time, people on YouTube saying, I make X number of dollars a month, and my rent is such and such, and I can't live anymore. So this is a person who's got a degree or an advanced degree.
The working poor.
Right, the working poor. So that demographic will more and more will fall into the poor, the homeless poor, And there's no incentive to stop that, because you have a neo-feudal class, people who really are harken back to the days of feudalism, where it's a couple of thousand essentially monarchical folks like who have hundreds of billions of dollars, and everyone else is literally hand to mouth subsistence. It won't be subsistence farming, it'll be subsistence clicking. Right? You'll be on your Provision Apple product clicking on ads to get a protein pill to survive another hour. Essentially is what we're heading into if the current trend continues, Graham. So if you extrapolate the bond market from 1981 and you put it through the diffuser machine of inflation and add a few Fed chairmen, and then you ricochet back to Hillary Clinton, you end up with a protein pill from Apple while you're having your Tesla take you to the euthanasia clinic.
Does that sound like an exciting word? We got a coupon code for you guys with the Tesla euthanasia clinic. Just do orange pill 20. You get 20% off euthanasia.
Yeah.
But this is why I first started watching your show on RT. It's because you really called out the corruption of Wall Street from an insider, as a guy that was working on Wall Street, that you understand this, and you're like the fact that they're just like, oh, we're just gonna create a crash to get our way. Like the fact that they've done that kind of stuff, which is, again, going back to sort of the point of what you're saying of Americans need to really come together. This red versus blue fight, which is completely concocted, the ruling elites, it's simple math. It's simple math. If I've got 50 guys and we control everything, and there's 100,000 people outside of our gates wanting to kill us, we just get them all to fight with each other. We're outnumbered. So they keep us all fighting with each other over this red, blue, this same stuff, these crazy social issue, whatever. So Americans don't realize the whole system is rigged. We're all getting screwed, and Bitcoin is the way out. I've been telling my audience, just buy Bitcoin. Just buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, I think it's frustrating also if you're right of center, because on the left, all the creative classes on the left.
Right.
So, you want to fraternize with the creative class, and you're like, hey, I'm a playwright too. I wrote about,
I have this playwright on algorithms.
Yeah,
it's fantastic. Got an algorithm.
It's about two. But when you approach folks, but then when you start talking about money, it's like you're like, oh fuck, no, I can't talk to you anymore. You're too fucking stupid.
They shut off. It's a problem.
But they should. But it's like, but we have a common cause here. The money. If you believe in let's say, global warming, for example, climate change, Bitcoin actually is a solution along those lines. It's the greenest industry in the world. It's getting greener all the time. It uses stranded energy to mine. And here's the key. If you hate war, you're a lefty, you hate war, okay? So how would you like to demonetize war? Well, war is all about printing money. We always enter wars. Like they're passing a bill in Washington this week.
180 billion for
like
Ukraine
3 wars,
and Israel.
3 war zones.
Yeah, boom.
Okay, so where do they get that money? They print it. What if they couldn't print it? Oh, they couldn't go to war. Well, can you print Bitcoin? No. Okay, so that's the simple mathematics of it. If you hate war, you love Bitcoin. If you love the environment, you love Bitcoin. Now we can explain that in detail.
Yes.
Okay, to any Birkenstock wearing vegetarian.
Look, I don't wear Birkenstocks, but I'm a big vegetarian. I have an electric car back in LA. Not a lot of electric cars here in El Salvador. Not yet. I wear, I like recycling and all that stuff. So when I first heard, Bitcoin was bad for the environment, I said, let me investigate this. And I investigated and went, that's incorrect. And because this is the thing I say on my show, Political Vigilante. I say, follow the money, connect the dots, get the truth. So who is pushing the Bitcoin's bad for the environment narrative? It's like central bank people and people that get money from central banks, not naming names, Senator Liz Warren and others.
Yeah.
And I go, and then when I started to see, like, especially being at the Adopting Bitcoin conference, I learned about stranded energy,
right?
Power plants or whatever that have excess energy that just would get burned and wasted. People are like, let's build a Bitcoin mining rig on top of it which that is very environmental.
Like gas flaring is a
Yes.
huge business. Well, you can cap it and mine Bitcoin.
Yes.
Then when you mine Bitcoin, you're defunding fiat money, because all the fiat money, there's like $400 trillion worth of fiat money based products, financial products in the world, stocks, bonds, cash, you name it. Planet Earth is worth about $400 trillion. And that's the total addressable market of Bitcoin. So it can literally demonetize fiat money. It can demonetize gold and silver. It can demonetize the bond market. It can demonetize the property market.
It can demonetize the fossil fuel industry. It could do. It can.
Well, I mean, it'll change. It'll
Right.
change the energy industry in a big way. You see property markets are doing poorly around the world in various spots. You see a lot of problems. And I think in part is due to Bitcoin, because people are not investing as readily into property as they used to, because Bitcoin is a superior form of investment to anything. It's going to outperform every single thing out there. The exchange traded funds, the ETFs, have made now it easier for people at least to get started on Bitcoin. They have some problems with those. We can talk about at some point, but at least it's a way to, if you call your broker and you've got, money markets and some stocks, you can say, well, put, 5,000 or 10,000 into a Bitcoin ETF, and at least you're on the path.